There's something strangely painful about Whisper of the Heart. Not painful in a dramatic way. Nobody dies, there's no villain, and there's no huge tragedy either. And yet, the movie captures a kind of fear that almost everybody experiences at some point in their life. The fear that everyone else knows what they're doing except you. At first glance, Whisper of the Heart looks like a simple coming-of-age romance. It follows Shizuku, a 14-year-old girl who spends most of her summer reading books, wandering around Tokyo, and slowly falling in love with a boy named Seiji. But I don't really think that the romance is the heart of the story. The conflict is much quieter than that. It's about ambition and insecurity, and realizing that growing up means eventually confronting the question of who you actually are. One of the things that makes the movie feel so emotionally honest is that Shizuku isn't bad at anything. She's smart, creative, curious, but she also doesn't feel exceptional. And that feeling is devastating when you're young, especially when you compare yourself to somebody like Seiji. Seiji already seems to know exactly what he wants. He wants to become a violin maker. He plans to study abroad in Italy. He talks about his future with complete certainty. Meanwhile, Shizuku feels stuck. There's a scene where she admits that she feels like one person is moving forward while the other is left behind. And honestly, I think that that's one of the most universally relatable feelings in the entire film. Because growing up is often less about discovering your dreams and more about realizing other people already seem ahead of you. What makes this even more interesting is the time period the film came out in. Whisper of the Heart released in 1995, right after the collapse of Japan's economic bubble. During the 1980s, Japan experienced massive economic expansion. There was this widespread belief that prosperity would just continue indefinitely, and then it collapsed. The stock market fell, property values crashed, and Japan entered what was known as the Lost Decade. That historical context changes the way the film feels, because Whisper of the Heart isn't set in some glamorous version of Japan. The world of the film is modest, quiet, almost restrained. Shizuku's family apartment is small. Her father works in a library, her mother is studying while managing family life. Nobody in the movie is chasing wealth or status. Instead, the characters are trying to find meaning, and I think that's important, because when society no longer guarantees stability or upward progression, ambition becomes deeply personal. This is where the movie becomes really fascinating to me culturally. I use Gert Hofstede's cultural dimension theory when writing about this film, specifically the idea of uncertainty avoidance. Japan scores extremely high in uncertainty avoidance, meaning culturally there's a strong preference for stability, structure, planning, and predictability, which makes the collapse of the economic bubble even more significant, because it didn't just damage the economy, it damaged people's confidence in the future itself. And I think you can feel that anxiety all throughout Whisper of the Heart. Shizuku constantly doubts herself, questions her talent, questions whether she's wasting time, questions whether her dreams are realistic. Meanwhile, Seiji almost feels like the opposite. There's the scene where he talks about violin making and basically says that the violin itself hasn't changed. What matters is the craftsman's skill. And what stands out is how calm he is about the future. He accepts uncertainty instead of fearing it. That's what makes him so different from Shizuku, and honestly, probably different from a lot of people. What I also appreciate is that the film doesn't romanticize ambition. Shizuku pushes herself so hard writing her novel that she completely exhausts herself. Her grades start slipping, her future becomes uncertain in a very real way, and her father gives her probably the most important line in the whole movie. He tells her, "You've got only yourself to blame." It's not cruel, and it's not dismissive, it's just honest. The film understands that following your own path sounds beautiful in theory, but it also means accepting responsibility if things fail. A lot of people now feel trapped between passion and practicality. We're constantly told to pursue what we love, while also living in economies that feel unstable and unforgiving. The anxiety Shizuku feels in 1995 honestly doesn't feel very different from what a lot of people feel now. What makes Whisper of the Heart so special is that it never offers an easy answer. It doesn't tell you that talent guarantees success. It doesn't tell you that dreams always work out. It doesn't even promise certainty. Instead, it argues something much smaller and more realistic, that growing up means moving forward despite uncertainty. And in a world where stability no longer feels guaranteed, maybe that kind of courage matters more than confidence ever did. And maybe that's why this film feels very relevant to me now. We're all trying to build a future in a world that no longer feels guaranteed. And like Shizuku, we're just hoping that the path ahead leads somewhere meaningful.